Bienvenido familia, Francisco Gomez here, and welcome to The Progressing Male. Here we are trying to challenge and fight head-on cancel culture because we want to get in depth with our feelings, our emotions, to prove that men, the modern-day gentleman, still exist. So we talk about all the conversations that you may try to avoid with my co-hosts. We are going to try and change our opinions to hopefully grow and educate and enlighten and obviously entertain you. But today is a special episode because I'm not only with the Ginger Ninja extraordinaire Kane Silver.
Oi.
And the Choco Mocolota, whatever that means.
It sounds sexy.
Dwayne Nosworthy. We have got a multi-talented, deliciously beautiful LiLi Hodge here, who has danced with so many people. Go on, name drop some of the people you've worked with.
Name drop.
Come on, Dua Lipa. Cough, cough. Who else? Come on, who else?
Liam Payne, Zara Larson. And
You know, you got it at the ready.
Yeah. She was like,
no, I never say that.
Since you asked.
Since you asked, I got it in my bag.
No, but she's a very highly respected and well-decorated performer, artist, and it's time, I thought, lads, that we brought some female energy to the mix.
I think you're right.
This is about discussing and learning, and who better to learn from the supreme beings that is the woman.
Yeah, I like that.
Just so you know,
Am I your
we
first
respect.
female energy?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, actually, I mean, not in life.
And surprisingly, not me.
no. I mean, sometimes he brings it a little bit, but
Balance.
Homophobia again.
But yeah, you are our first.
Wow.
Oh, enjoy
Yeah.
that.
You like that?
I like that a lot.
So the reason why I brought you is because we did a job not too long ago and we had this amazing little catch up. And one thing that while I was listening to you, I was like, man, this is a conversation we need to have, because I do believe that women have this unspoken language that men still haven't tapped into fully. And it's, to give you a really bad example, this is a really bad example. But
Okay.
you know, like, for example, if the wifey or the lady had an outfit on and she was like, how does this look? And then he goes, actually, semi-constructive. The woman can then be like, and then storms off because she took that as she's commenting on her weight, and all she wanted to hear is what she wanted to hear, not what actually was present.
Right.
And you know those kind of situation where lads is like,
I do.
fuck, what have I done? Or like when you mistakenly ask a woman's age and then they're like, all the girls are like, you don't do that. And us is like, it's just an age, bruv. It's just a number. All things like that. It's almost like women understand that better. And one of the stories that you told me was something that we all go through is you were in a relationship, a certain point of your life, certain age, and the relationship didn't work, and it wasn't because of cheatation on like in typically, you know what I mean? It's because what I got from the story, your inner saboteur and lack of maturity at the moment kind of stopped the relationship or what could have been your happily ever after. So for context, let's talk about the relationship and where you were at the time. Paint the picture of the relationship first.
Paint the picture of the relationship.
How did you meet?
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. I actually met him doing X Factor.
Mm-hmm.
He was a cameraman. And you know when you meet someone and I feel like I've manifested this man, like he was everything that, like, look-wise, absolutely fancied him straight away. His assertiveness, his direction, all of that. I used to be quite fussy, like really used to enjoy like the materialistic things about a man, like their activities. Oh, he surfs, he plays the guitar, he does all these. They used to mean like a lot to me,
Right.
For whatever reason. And he like ticked all of these boxes. I was like, this is it. He is the one. You know, when you meet someone in that moment, if he is into me as well, which he was because he was the one that came up to me, you know, when you just know, this is it. Like this is it. It just felt energetically so correct and made me feel home and safe straight away. But so he was the cameraman, and it was in the canteen after one of our shows. Like, you know, when you've just been clocking each other all day, he was in the audience as we was like rehearsing. It was the Brian Freeman days. And so, you know, when everyone gets involved as well.
Yeah.
The whole team are rooting for this.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I love
They were
it.
like,
It's all the stress.
he's
Like, yeah, Saturday night, we've got the glasses of wine. He's like, he's there.
He was looking at you in tech.
Yeah, honestly, it was that story. So, yeah, the whole team knew about it. So it felt like, oh, really nice when he actually came over. And then, honestly, from there, and he did everything right, like to the book that you would dream of as a young female for the way that he took me on dates, the way that he asked me out, the way that he spoke to me. He was very
Sounded like a gentleman.
complete gentleman. That's it. Yeah, old school gentleman, romantic. All of like the right things.
Nice.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The way where he took me on dates and like everything, like the Shard, the London Eye, all like the real big thing to woo me. He completely wooed me, and I was like, oh. There was about 4 to 5 years difference. I was 21 at the time, and he was about 24, 25, I believe. I can't remember correctly now because I feel like when that energy happens, I don't even think we asked each other's age.
Yeah, you just
for a
knew it was
while.
right.
It just happened. So yeah, we're painting the picture. It's beautiful. It's going perfectly. And during the beginning stages of the relationship, as a female, like you have your feelings under control, and it's all like it's on a really, really good page. Our foundations were really good, and then because I was young, that's when my own insecurities started like creeping in, and this is what me and you were talking about, how I was like, okay, this is actually my dream man, like this could be it. And I was also like 21. Why is he actually loving me, and why is he still treating me like everything, you know, to the point where opening doors for me, that means so much to me now, purely because of the way he was with that. If I was to get up and leave and walk out that door now, he would run to get there just before me so that I didn't have to lift a finger at the handle. Like all of things like this, and it just didn't stop. He was so consistent. And yeah, it got to that stage for me, must have been, I really wasn't aware of it at the time at all, but now on reflection and years later I can. But I got to that stage where was self-sabotaging the relationship, but he stuck by me through thick and thin. I just really tore down him through this. But I used to push. I was actually, can you say bitch on here?
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can.
Potty mouth over here.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Okay.
cool. I was a bitch, I'm not going to lie. I was like a cold-hearted bitch, but it's not what I actually felt. I loved this man with all of my heart. Like, I would have done anything to be with him literally forever. But this inner sabotage within me was really nasty to him. He could never do anything. I was then complaining about things I didn't really mean, but I really couldn't believe that he, like, you know, I don't know if you've ever felt this as men, but you want to push someone far, keep pushing them because you want to see how far you can push them. If they come back, it proves that they truly love you. Or if they come back, oh, they must really love me. And it felt my security for a little while until I needed that reassurance again. And then it's very, very toxic, like push. And it's come back again. Yeah, he does love me. And then.
But LiLi, where's this coming from? Because if it's all in paper and the actions kind of match the ideal man for you. You said a few moments ago, you know, your inner saboteur came out. Who is she? Or who was your inner saboteur? What were the characteristics? What was it that you think you lacked or that you needed that even through picture perfect, you still needed that reassurance? Because that's what a lot of men don't understand with women. Because to hear it, paper, it completely makes sense. But what was it before the relationship that wasn't fixed that kind of made it happen then? Because the age we are now, I would hope, I would never do that now. But back then, I can totally see it because 21 is very young and still come to your own. But when you say your inner saboteur, where did that come from and why?
I honestly, if I knew, I'm not quite sure where it came from, but.
Because you pushing away, it was a test, right? It was a test to see would he always be there? Were you lacked anything in the past by a male figure that maybe you kind of replayed that or imitated that
affection
action? Lack
of affection, I think, and love from a male figure maybe.
Uh-huh.
So when he came in and he was all of that, I didn't quite know.
You didn't actually know how to handle it.
With that, even though it was coming from such a pure place from him, he genuinely just was completely in love with me. I was like, oh, how? It was everything I'd wanted and craved because I lacked the physical affection, and maybe from male figures, just because, like, you know, everybody's different. Like, men show their affection in different ways. Like my father's way, my dad's way is if he's paying the bills and we've got a roof over our heads, that's his way of showing, like, I love you,
protection.
I've got you. Yeah, protection.
Protection and providing.
Whereas like a kiss and a hug isn't
his thing.
really what we do.
But do you have have you always had a good relationship with him though?
Yeah, 100%. And now as I've got older and through that relationship, understanding that I can create that a lot stronger now and actually being open with him and telling him. And I asked him, like, why don't you ever hug or kiss me, and like now we do. Or I'd never. Used
And
to
what did he
cry.
say to that though?
Yeah, because that's
That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as a dad
And-
to a daughter, I'm very affectionate, but had I not have been, and my daughter asked me why, or that would be quite a hard question to answer. So
Yeah.
what did he say? Because that would have been probably his worst nightmare, because he thinks he's doing everything for you. So to hear that, it's like, shit, no, I've let you down some way.
or maybe my love is not enough.
Or just it's different, and she's seen that differently to the point where it's actually been detrimental to her.
Right. What did he say?
And I've contributed to that as a dad. So when you asked him that question, what did he say?
Yeah, really good. He obviously first of all reacted with defensiveness.
Of course.
And that's
Yeah, of
why
course he
I'm always
would.
Scared to talk to
Because of the reaction.
and express how I'm feeling, which might have been where I went wrong in that relationship. I never used to express that maybe this is how I was feeling, so I used to test it in like these really toxic
Ways.
ways.
Yes.
And he responded saying, basic, but I put the roof over your head. You went to college. I paid.
Of course
for
I love
this,
you.
I paid for that. How can you set another? But then that made me reflect. Oh, I'm just not receiving
His
what
love
you're
language.
giving me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and that's when I asked. And like now we do. And as we've got older, I never used to cry in front of him or anything. So I used to also be scared of then, oh, he might hug me, and I don't know how I would feel and what I would do.
Wow. So what you lusted for underneath it, or you also tried to avoid because of how uncomfortable and real it would have been.
Yeah.
What the frick?
I know.
Leah!
No, don't. The
No,
thing is,
it's-
he's interested
I
to
love
Cisco.
it.
Cisco's
Yeah.
reaction is like, damn, right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. As much as it's kind of like, shit, that's so confusing, the confusion makes sense now.
Oh, this conversation is therapy.
Cisco said, yay. No, it's so interesting because as a dad, I didn't allow my daughter to cry.
What?
Yeah, that's a shock to you.
Yeah,
Because because I'm so the
So
opposite to that.
emotional.
Right, but it's because of what it would have done to me to see her cry.
Whoa, so you stopped it for her to protect yourself because
I
that's the last thing you
and
want
to
as a
protect
father.
her,
But do you-
and how I saw and deemed crying as a weakness.
Yeah.
And my daughter's not weak.
But do you understand, if this is what I've realised, the minute I've been able to be like emotionally open with my dad, how much closer
It
we are.
it broke everything.
Like, yeah, it just breaks down.
Yeah, no,
the
it's
wall.
listen, we speak about this on this podcast in particular, like about really being emotional as men, or just being vulnerable and just speaking our truth. Like whether that is emotional or not, who cares? Just speak your truth and let that truth be truthful. And that's something I worked on, especially like with my daughter. I made sure I was like, right, I stopped her from crying. As a baby, to tell her to suck it up, and she would. So now whenever I speak to her, the moment there's a change in my tone, she cries. Because I didn't allow her to before. So now when she changes or feels a certain thing, she's very emotional, very in touch with that.
This resonates so much with me because even, I think it was last week,
Yeah.
I brought up a situation to my dad, like
Yeah.
confronting him when I'm with him and I have to confront him emotionally. I have to prepare myself, take the deep breath, because it still sometimes is received with defensiveness
Right.
and stuff. And yeah, I was really open to him about why didn't you ask me if I was okay after he saw me a bit upset. And he got onto the conversation. He was like, it just seems like you always cry. And he was like, is there something wrong? And I was like, no, this is how, and it makes sense.
We don't
always cries, because now when I'm having these emotional conversations with my dad and I'm being vulnerable about how I feel, it ultimately brings out this tearful emotion. Then he also then struggles. So he's also scared that I'm bringing.
No, he goes into more
emotional
protection and provide mode. So he wants to protect you from crying. What's the matter?
So
And now I want to
yeah.
provide the solution to solve whatever it is while you're crying. Because especially your dad's generation, it's just, what's wrong? How do I sort this?
Yeah.
I don't want to see you cry.
And it will make sense why now we're talking about vulnerability and emotions. I cry every time.
Yes.
I'm not really usually an emotional person, but when I'm having these conflicts with my dad, I am a tearful wreck.
Yeah,
Do you
because
know why though? So because the underbelly of it is that you've always longed for this.
you have.
And it's been suppressed, and you've been in survival mode in other situations with men and friendships and work.
Yep.
When you have it in its purest form, because that's your home,
Yeah.
it's almost emotionally blinding, and it's impossible to
Yeah.
receive, because it's like, fuck, this is like so absolute but so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because with my mum, we've had a very colourful relationship. But we,
I like that word.
What I realised with
That was really good.
You lot were twinning on that, so you both looked at me.
and I've talked about this in other episodes. So if you want to know the tea, go back to season 1. But what I realised with my mum and I is that we were living 2 different parallels because she was the man as well as the woman. So
Yes.
she was providing everything, and so what I would do, I've kind of given up that my mum's love language can never coincide or match mine because she provides differently. But when there's an emotional tone to it, and I can see that I finally tapped into her emotionally, as much as I want that for her, it's so uncomfortable. And with me, I'm like, where's the eject button?
Rewind.
Like, get out, bitch. Like, let me get out. Just because it's like, it's almost like I'm like, ew, that doesn't suit you. You know what I mean? So with you, you're going a step further to kind of like, because you've created this space with him, where with me, when my mum, because I told her about herself a week ago.
About a week ago.
And I remember like seeing her, I finally got through to her, but she was paralyzed by my words and she just froze. And there's a part.
This is recently?
Yeah.
Wow.
It all happened last week.
Yeah, everything happened last week. Yeah, she, what even happened? I might as well reveal since I'm here. She, oh my gosh. Okay, so what happened was, my boyfriend is coming to spend Christmas with us, and he's coming on Christmas Eve. So out of respect for my mum and tradition, this new tradition, you cook one day and I'll cook the other. Latinos also celebrate the 24th. So because my boyfriend is coming on the 24th, Mum, why don't you cook on the 24th? And Jason and I will take the kitchen on the 25th so you can rest and enjoy the food. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong? And she's like, well, traditionally we do this, and I was going to do this. And I was like, okay, that's okay. We can still do that on the 24th if that's okay, because, I mean, from a 10.5-hour flight, we didn't know if he's going to be comfortable or not. And the last thing he's going to want to do is cook maybe. Are you okay with that? And I'm just like, you know what, Cisco? Mum, it's okay, you cook. It's absolutely fine. But because I didn't entertain it, because with my mum, it's almost like back in the day, me adding drama, adding more fire to the more gasoline to the fire is how we communicated, and I just don't have that anymore. I'm not going to speak to the woman that birthed me in the tone that I used to back in the day. So I'm not going to entertain this. Solved. You cook both days. So there's an awkward silence because she doesn't like how she took my directness and no tolerance for the subject as like, how rude. But because she's not used to having 2-count conversations, it's many hours of arguing usually. She was like, well, what am I going to cook on the 24th? I was like, Mum, that's up to you. That's not up to me anymore. You decide what you cook on the 24th. 25th, I'm sure it's going to be great. Oh, well. And I'm just like, do you have anything to say, Mum? She's like, you're just like your father. And that's a trigger to me because my father wasn't the nicest man, but he didn't raise me. You raised me. So I said to her, Mum, you're going to have to start taking responsibility for your portion of this, because if you're seeing me in Dad, who's the common denominator here? Because he didn't raise me. The same shit you were doing to my dad, you're doing to me now, and you're using me as a projection post. You're using me as a punching bag. I am not the problem, because I'm speaking to you like a grown-ass woman now. So don't say that, because do I hit you? Was I an alcoholic? Did I cheat on you? Did I dog your name? Did I abandon you? So stop it. I'm not like my dad. You just haven't changed from when you were going out with my dad.
Damn.
She stood there and she was like, and my mum's eyes glazed because she will never, her emotions certain emotions are weakness to her. She's a very proud Black Latino woman. And I understand the cards she was dealt, but I'm like, you're going to have to know this now, because now that I can articulate in Spanish, you need to know, because your words, you will choose wisely in my presence now. And she just stood there. And there was this awkward moment where, like, if I was in any other situation, like if I did that to Dwayne, for example, and I just read his rights and we got to a point, I'll hug him straight away. And I'll be like, brother, I love you. I needed to say this because, nah, mate. But I can't do that with her because that purity of love or that affectionate side of things is just a language we don't have. When my mum hugs me, I'm like,
Have you ever felt in that moment, okay, now should be the moment I try?
I can't do it.
Ooh.
So I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, because it did take me a lot to get to that place, and that's where, and even letting him show affection to me.
To you,
Yeah.
That's where the power lies, because I know that's probably difficult for him, but deep down he probably wants to, but it's never been part
of his vocabulary.
Of his vocabulary, like your mum. And in that moment when I expressed that, and he could see that I then was getting upset, he probably saw me and he just got up straight away like, oh, and pulled me down to the sofa, kissing my head, and I just hugged it, and I just cried even more, and I was like, this is what I wanted.
Your inner child,
Yeah.
really
And
like
he was
fell apart in
fumbling,
daddy's
kissing
arms.
my head, and I just was crying on the sofa, and that was so difficult for me to do, but everything I needed. And this is only happening now, and I'm like 29, and this relationship was years ago. But this is what I mean about therapy. We're going back. It's the parents. We wanted to talk about the relationship.
Yeah, because they do.
But wow,
they do the
that's-
best they can, but they do set us up.
Yeah.
But it's not understanding each other and the way that we love, even as the parent. But I've really felt like that as well. Like, oh, this is where and I just avoid it all the time. But now I'm really moving through that. I've got to understand how he feels. 'Cause it's not that they don't love us. He doesn't not love me. But
Love language is different.
He's finding it hard to be emotional. He's finding it hard to be affectionate. But yeah, in those moments when it's natural to him. It is. And it's making him, the more open I am being with my vulnerability about our connection and our relationship, it's enabling him to tap in to that more
That's
affectionate
beautiful.
side.
That is very beautiful. What
And
would
then
you, sorry, go, bro, go.
And then it makes you think about what maybe his parents were like to him.
Which is everything to do with it.
Like, which is the exact
Which are
reason
no
why he is to
affection.
you.
Is it no affection at all?
Yes.
Zero.
I mean, they don't even speak now. Like it's
But that's
so
normally a
it's-
huge thing.
Yeah,
It is the thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it is.
it
Because
is.
It's like, how are you expecting your parents to be present for the way that they need you when their childhood had nothing to do with that either? So there's no association.
yeah.
Yes. Like the topic that it was about, he'd seen me and my sister out, and I had to storm out of the house, and I was extremely upset, and it was on my nephew's birthday. It was a huge forum, and I had to leave and drive like an hour and a half back home. And I go back to my dad's. So bearing in mind now, it's been about a week and a half past. This thing is brewing. And in my head, I'm like, why hasn't he asked me if I'm okay? This is weird. But for my dad, he prefers to bury it, like ignore that didn't happen.
But that's how he's
But now
learned.
for me, he can sandwich this. And I'm like, I can't sandwich that and
Right.
move on. He's like, why can't you? And I said, because then we won't end up having a connection, and I don't want that. So I'm going to choose now, and that's when my voice starts going shaky, to ask you, why have you not asked me if I'm okay? That's all I want.
I
And
really relate to your dad.
That's you.
That's me to a T.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
call him Dory. He swims away.
I
from
just keep
all
swimming.
problems, Yeah.
Just give-
Like, I find it so hard to, like,
But he's working on it.
acknowledge an emotion and be like, so this is an issue, or this is what I'm feeling, or this is this. I just let everything fly by, and I'll be like, I'll forget about it tomorrow. It'll be fine. Like, and that's
It
my
don't-
weakness.
you don't-
No,
you
it
don't
doesn't.
know,
And
like-
even now, like, and it's actually from speaking to these guys that I've acknowledged that I have to work on my weakness, and I'm trying to do that now, and it's so hard. And it's
It is
and that's actually crippling to me. So like, even when you're having these conversations with your dad, obviously you have to think about how you feel, but also bearing in mind that it's probably horrendous for him too, because I feel like we always think about ourselves, right, and never like who maybe we might be dealing our emotions to, especially as a parent, because we expect as our parents them to know all and them to just suck
They
it up
don't.
because we're the kids.
Yeah.
We're their children. You should figure this out because you made me. Like, it's your responsibility to make sure I'm okay. But sometimes it doesn't always work that way. Because like the same way, like, I don't have a great relationship with my dad. We don't talk about anything other than cars or sports. Like, we don't know each other's interests really, like in real life. There was always money provided.
So it's surface relationship.
It's a serious relationship. But as soon as he ever showed, and like he bought me this watch, but he bought me another watch. And he went, I got you this, and I went to get it in blue, but I got it black because you never wear blue. And it's the first time I'd ever felt noticed, and that's all I'd ever craved from him was him to notice me. Do you know what I mean? It was never about. It was never about like money. It was never about anything. It
I
wasn't.
think that's
about,
what it is for every child.
It was about him paying attention to me.
Yes.
Because my other brothers, they got everything, and I always got money because it was just like, oh yeah, I'm giving you a present. Do you know what I mean? And as soon as that happened, and he acknowledged how much that meant to me,
And
now
he
he
would actually
knows.
like it. He bought you
And
something that you like,
and
it
now,
resonated.
and then the year later, he got me another one. He was like, I knew how much you liked that present, so I got you I got you a new one, like a different pattern.
But you see that you've
But-
adopted that.
Yeah, and
Because you're-
that's what's
I
happened
was just
to me.
about to say you have
You're
adopted
that
your.
person.
Yeah.
Kane, for our viewers and listeners, it might be your first episode. Kane isn't about materialism or big things. It's the small gestures that come from a heartfelt place, which clearly is because his father lacked him that. And so to get any remnants of that means a lot because he didn't get that growing up. And now for you to finally be in a position to receive that in his love language, it's super profound because it echoes what he initially lacked you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And probably what he lacked from his parents.
So like that's probably your dad struggling to relate that with you because he just doesn't know because he didn't get it from above.
Right.
He outrightly said, well, I thought that I should, but he didn't know how to communicate. For him, it was easier that we live in this same house, walk around with this tension, glooming. It literally felt like walking through the fog. And I was like, I don't know how on earth you live that. I was like, I can't see. Like, I was like, no, I'm quite airy.
Yeah, no, men, we can compartmentalize really well. Yeah, really well. In the smog of stuff. Do you know what I mean? The smog. Like we will just pretend something doesn't exist. Like Kane spoke about. It's just kind of how we tick over. I don't know why. I think I told you this before about TD Jakes talking about 10-gallon pint or 10-gallon type of love. Some people love in 10-gallon, and some people love pint size. And it's understanding people's love language. So even down to your mum, your dad, or whoever, they might be pint size, but you're a 10-gallon love type person.
So you're never going to be filled.
No, and they can't love you anymore because they're only pint size. So they're giving you everything they have, but they're only able to give you pint size love because they're pint size. You're 10-gallon.
Wow, unless you get another glass.
but that's where they're at.
Of the energies, the masculine and feminine, if you're working together, and it just takes one person to make the first pint.
Gosh, I want a pint now.
After. And yeah, it brings it out in the mass. That's what I found with my dad anyway. It's still like a coping mechanism every time. But after, I'm like so relieved. It's like a flush.
I'm
like
relieved for you. It feels like
the valve
a flush.
off the gutter and it's just like, and then you're closer.
Yeah.
And that's what's key for me. I can't have those surface relationships anymore, even with my parents, just to save face. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to talk about this. Like, this is how I'm feeling. And as much as he might hate it, he does then love it because he'd never get to hug me otherwise. Like, that must have been nice for him. I hope it was anyway.
We love a bit of progression. So we did, if you freaking back, so your inner saboteur, one of the components was the lack of affection or the same love language that you wanted from your first male figure, which is your father.
Yeah.
What else did you do besides push him away? Because pushing him away is repelling from emotions, right? It's a projection of that. But what other components did that inner saboteur have that gentleman experienced?
He could never do anything good enough. I
So
felt
dissatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction, absolutely. Like, he would pay for everything. He took me to New York every holiday. Like, and it still was never good enough. Oh, can you give me money for this? He took me out for my dissatisfaction, absolutely.
So who dissatisfied or let you down to the point where it was so hyperly done?
I think because we never. It's that like overwhelming of getting treated so well. Like really somebody going above and beyond, the thoughtfulness, the little things, the gifts.
Was it almost too good to be true?
Exactly.
Right.
Is it too much? Or
Like-
you were okay with it?
If I was receiving that now, it would just encourage me to do that back.
Right.
Like, it would just blossom. And
But
grow.
then you had no clue what you was
Then
getting.
I was like I loved it, and I was so in love with him. But I was just like, it just wasn't sticking.
It's too much. Do you reckon
Yeah.
do you reckon it had something to do with your age, because it was just too much of that in an abundance, and maturity wise, because maybe the experiences you had before this, you just weren't ready for it, and so you were kind of like, it was a knee jerk kind of a reaction.
Yeah, but and also what I feel like after you just said that, he never spoke to me. He never, if he'd maybe been like, you're acting out, this is not okay for me. He never
put you in your place.
No.
Right. So his way of trying to solve it was just to continue to give.
He just kept giving, and that's what I mean. It allowed me to keep pushing.
Oh,
During
damn.
this time, it obviously is mentally affecting him, but he's not aware of it either, because
Do you think had he had said something, it would have made a difference
that's
though?
what just come up to me right there.
Because-
well, it might have been, 'cause it might have made me reflect. I had not once looked at myself during that whole relationship because I didn't need to.
Question. because it's something I've recognized as well. So because whilst you were pushing, do you think that might have given you the, I'm going to say reasoning, beautiful excuse to then at least say, see, I knew. So when he did push against you, or if he had held you accountable, that would have been a kind of like, you know what, I knew you would show this color. You weren't, all of the stuff that you were doing for me wasn't really true. Like you would have used that as a reason to.
Oh, you would have weaponized his
Weaponize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Weaponized his. I did that as well.
Oh, you did. So did he try to pull you up and then realize, oh, even if I try.
Because what Dwayne's trying to say, I think, is if he would have tried, or at least attempted to put you in your place, would it be met with a scary girlfriend?
You're looking
You
for
don't
him.
love me, or this is not about me, this is about you, or whatever it was to deflect.
You're looking for him to slip up because
Yeah.
Yeah, you know when it's like he now meets the narrative of what you need him to meet because you're so scared of him like not meeting that right now. He's like doing all these things where you're like, oh, it's great, but oh my days, it's scaring me. I need him to fuck up so I can label him the fuck up.
Well, that's exactly what I was searching for, the whole relationship.
Right, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if he had, I would like to have thought that maybe I would have reflected, but you're probably extremely right. Like I would have.
Because you're thinking now.
That's it.
Yeah, because now you probably would do that if someone did that.
Searching for a reason, you were searching for
A way out.
like a way out. Yeah, and they're two different things.
They are. No, but it's a beautiful like realization because it allows you to then look at yourself in a way like in a mirror and go, okay, shit, that was me.
And it makes sense because the reason why we did end up separating was because there was one time when he was like, it's just not.
You can't
I
take
can't
it
do it
anymore.
anymore. And it
Wow.
was on a Christmas day, and it just broke my. Even still, after then, he would always come. He never left the picture, which is what I was saying about you. We were so in love. It was
Really?
we were very, very attached. But it wasn't until then. That's all I needed for him to say that, for me to affirm my own belief that I wasn't good enough. For him to be like,
Yeah, I
"Oh,
thought
that's
so."
it. He's broke my heart.
Yeah,
he's
that's-
this," and that's when I
Wow,
started
worst case
travelling alone.
scenario.
That's what I
But then I
thought.
remember being there, feeling like I've made this. I've drove. This is what I was waiting to happen, and now it's happened.
So the same way you
And that's what-
manifested him into your life, you manifested him out.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew from the get, I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to be able to, like, keep this connection up, because I just knew already what my go-to.
Have you ever told
I was
him this?
literally just about to say, like, you should maybe send him this.
Oh my days.
Well, let's get to
If
that.
the-
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro. Have we gone ahead?
No, yeah, we've gone a little bit ahead.
I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
bro. It was
Oh,
like
she's
I'm
like-
listening to her, and I'm like,
this is like a
it'd
movie.
be so beautiful. Because as a man, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
And I'll be really honest as well. This is how deep it went for me, and I feel like maybe a lot of females do this, and maybe even men do this in relationships as well. It was at the beginning of our relationship, completely besotted by each other, so I have no clue what I was doing here. But I went to LA. As dancers, sometimes we go to LA a couple
To
of
train,
months a year.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in that phase. I was doing that. And I have no idea why I did this. He was amazing when I was there, sending me songs, playlists every day. It was right at the beginning of our relationship as well. It was Valentine's while I was there, sent me flowers to the place I was staying. Long story short, I ended up sleeping with someone out there.
Oh wow.
But-
And this is early days, though, right?
Yeah, but still, you don't really. It was an excuse for me, but we didn't need that label. We was there. He'd just been at my family's for Christmas, vice versa. Like,
So you both knew you were into something, regardless of the label being solidified. You
Yeah,
know,
It's an immature response that I had at the
Right,
time. for
okay.
Sure.
ownership, responsibility.
Your innocent
That is.
soul does not play, huh?
No, I was, and I knew when I woke up in the morning, I was like, what am I actually doing? But it, like, even with the affection with this other man, like, it wasn't just that one time. It was like the holding hands, like in the pool kissing. It was like that, and I was like, what? That's how deep it went for me, because I was like, I don't know what I was searching for or what I was doing then, but I knew from that moment, I'm going to have to tell him, if I'm ever going to marry this guy, I can't
Hold that
live
secret,
with
absolutely.
him not knowing this. So I knew as well, I was also like sabotaging and jeopardising our future from that moment, but waking up thinking I'm going to have to tell his family this, but knowing that that was how I'd feel, I still did it.
Wow.
That's how deep this sabotage was for me. So it wasn't even that I wanted to hurt his feelings. It was all about me. It wasn't that I didn't love him. It wasn't that I didn't want to be with him. It actually was the opposite. I was so in love with this man and what we could be, that I was sleeping with someone else. It sounds so bizarre, but it was not about him. And I feel like a lot of men, or maybe even women, do that, and it's to understand that. And he did at that time. He didn't even blame me. I told him, and he stayed with me, but I told him months later when I grew the balls again, immature, just no.
Yeah, of course you did. That's the human.
Yeah.
No, but you are right that I think men do feel that way. But you have articulated in a way that most men would never be able to articulate. And if we did, we would not be met with that same compassion and empathy. That I'm not saying that just us alone, but we're not met with that.
from us.
Yeah, the moment we do that,
But we do it.
of course, I know,
This is what I was saying at the
but
beginning, you know, those things that another girl being here should be like, babes, I know exactly what you mean, or she'll nod her head because there's that. Where with me
Yeah.
on the outside, because we've got our version of doing this,
yes,
even though it's the same subject, it's not that at all.
it's not met with the
And
same
so-
thing.
And so for me, it's like, wow.
It's so sick.
No. But if you heard the male version of that, you would go, what?
Yeah.
Because we get it, even though it's wrong, and other females will get exactly what you're saying because
Yeah.
From your
and-
perspective.
And this is the thing about the difference between the woman and the man. You are self-analyzing and almost self-therapizing yourself as it's happening, but you're still doing it.
I
Where-
was so, it's like two people. That
where,
whole
where with us, this could be wrong. Done. We don't get deeper than that because the repercussion it's action and repercussion. Where with you, it's like all that juiciness in between, which hopefully could lead someone to be like, I'm not going to do this. Where a lot of us don't have the access to that middle part,
yeah.
and
Wow.
that's the difference between when a man and a woman does it. And I see that all the time. When I see my straight friends slip on in their relationships or they talk about similar situations, I'm like, okay, and yeah, it was done. It's like I just did it. I slept with her. Like
The-
that's it. And you're like, oh, have you even thought about it? And then maybe suppress
What did that
guilt.
mean?
Yeah. We don't access it.
That's so true,
Language that
man.
we speak is different.
It's so true.
Where you even though you chose the path,
Yeah.
you still had the intelligence, the pause, the know-how to be like, this has nothing to do with him. This is me, Leanne. What are you doing? These components are attached to this.
But I also didn't know that at the time.
No.
So
Yeah.
when I eventually told him,
Yeah.
and honestly, it was the cutest moment. We was at like a Pizza Express, and there was a puddle on the floor, and he picked me up, carried me over the puddle, like that's like the type of relationship we had. And someone was like, "You two are amazing," and I was like, "This is the guy. I'm gonna have to tell him." And we was drinking a wine, and he was just looking at me, and I was like, when I was, and I just said it in LA, I did sleep with someone, and I just watched his heart break in front of me. And even then, I didn't even tell him the full truth. He found it out later. I'd left like my Dropbox open on his laptop, and there was pictures. No, I'm sorry for not laugh. But it
I'm
was all
loving this
very-
honesty though.
It was all very dramatic. What was I saying before? Why was I telling you that bit?
You were telling me the story because you were saying that I interrupted you in the sense that the way we deal with that particular situation is different to.
Oh yes, that's what I was saying.
man and
So
woman.
at that time, I still didn't have that intelligence. So I've told him now, although all I'm feeling is guilt, and I'm reacting with this defensiveness. So
Yeah.
even though how he took it was beautifully, how a gentleman really would, he acknowledged it. He was like, "Hey, can I stay with you tonight?" He really was working with. He wanted to straight away work through it with me, and then as soon as he'd like decided, okay, let's move through it. Then again, I'm back on the attack. Well, we need to just move past it now. You've forgiven me. Forgive me. I wanted the button, the sticker. Move on. I never allowed him the time. I didn't acknowledge his feelings, to be honest,
Wow.
at all during that relationship. I never allowed his emotions to breathe.
Is that
Yeah.
selfishness that you think is in other areas of your life at the time or now? Because to me, that's just selfishness. Because you're thinking, okay, I got through
I've
that hurdle.
forgiven. Yeah.
But now for me to feel
Move,
better,
move, move.
let's move.
Yeah, because I was so scared that he might change his mind. But
Ah.
that's the immaturity, like not allowing the progression.
Yeah, because you've got through it. He's accepted it.
You
Now
said- you said
let's
you
not
think-
let you take
Yeah.
your
So why
time
are
to
we
change
still
your
here?
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
I've realised now how again, one of those other things, I just never allowed him to have his say. I cared about it, but I didn't want to hear it. It was very, very
I understand that.
one-sided, because as a female, when you're in that insecurity, when obviously that probably is what it is, you're scared of him going, you're also scared of him expressing.
Yeah, because it has you.
The truth.
You have to face it. Yeah, there is a lot to face with
I
that.
didn't actually, I'm not even sure if my family know I did that, but all of his family did, because obviously he was heartbroken. But I was so ashamed at the
Yeah.
time. It's only recently that I've been honest about me even doing that in America, because it was just like I wanted it to be between me and him, and just
Yeah, of course.
I get that.
but for selfish reasons, like because then if people actually know, that makes me a type of person.
Yeah.
Even
Or at
though-
least a type of person that they may try label you to be, but you're not that type of person. You did something that comes under a heading, but that's not who you are.
Those subjects are really difficult though, because that's from a mature point of view, or someone who maybe has done something similar or has been the receiving end.
Definitely.
But I can understand certain subjects, unfortunately, have a label attached to them.
They do.
Like, I want to keep this to myself because I don't want to be this association part of it to actually define me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are right.
Yeah. But going back to have I ever spoke to him about it, no, because it's only been since I've matured and had that time to reflect. However, I do always wish that if I ever got the chance to let him, like he did everything right, everything by the book. Like he couldn't have been more of a perfect partner, long term, short term. And it was me. I self-sabotaged it, and I did push him until the point he'd broke down. And then, yeah, he might have been retaliating a little bit, but anybody would have. And I'm
Yeah.
surprised that
It lasted
he
that
didn't any
long.
sooner. But yeah, that if anybody, like when men are perfect in that way for that woman and they're not ready to receive it, it is nothing to do with them, because I feel like I made him feel like he wasn't good enough.
I think that's the same
More.
from our side though. Of like if we make women feel a certain way, I think that it's got nothing to do with them. It's us. We're battling our things and what we're doing. So the fact that you're admitting that not only helps other women understand that they can own that, take ownership of their responsibility and accountability, but men can do the same.
I think it's.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that point, Dwayne, is when our inner saboteur is present in a relationship, the aftermath to the person receiving sometimes can be irreversible. Because
That's true.
They immediately think I'm failing in the even though this is about you.
Yeah.
The gentleman in me isn't going to go there because I just want you to be okay. I want to fix what you're doing, but then it makes the man, second guess what he can do to the relationship because everything is wrong.
Very true.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a hard situation, because I remember one of the things you told me, it's like you saw at the tail end of it that you had changed him, but for the worse, because it was like you left a relationship with a broken man and he wasn't that in the beginning.
The only way for him to heal, which is why I just had to stick by the decision, even like a couple of years, him still always being there and checking in with me. I knew the damage that I'd done, and I couldn't possibly be the person to help him out of it. Like we needed that
Space.
line cut for him. Honestly, it's because I did love him. I was like, it needs to not be with me. Like I feel the same, but I've really damaged you.
Do you feel like you've done enough damage, so this second season of you getting better has to do nothing with me?
Yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting.
Profound.
Yeah.
It's profound, because I think with love, I think it makes us do really crazy things, and
Definitely.
someone that was so picture perfect, once the other person forgives, usually you move on, and it could be very easy, like, oh well, let's try this again in a different light, but he wouldn't have been the same, because he wouldn't be able to take the nutrients and really soak in everything that relationship with you put him through.
And even though he might have forgiven me, I don't think he truly would have been able to love me.
Wow.
And I think
Wow.
I think that's you again. I think
Again, it could have been,
because you know what it is about love. It's like, and it happens with maturity. Once I forgive you, it's then, if I'm on the receiving end of it, it's up to me the proximity that we're going to do. But if I've given you 100% forgiveness, then know that the second chapter, or whatever chapter it is, it's a new playing field.
Yeah.
And there's very few situations where I'm like, sorry, demotion has happened. Like, just to protect myself, I can't have you in the same eye level. You know what I mean? And I think because you were everything to him, he could have. But I think there's still debris of old Leanne there, where it's like, I feel guilty because what would I be capable to do that for a man?
Yeah, I couldn't forgive myself.
That's ultimately what it was about.
So my
No. Oh, no.
next question is, have you?
Now I believe I have, but I think I know that he's moved on now.
And this is why you can't have the conversation out of respect for his new relationship.
Yes, 100%. And sometimes I just don't think it's necessary. If he's happy, that's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Like,
That's enough.
Yeah, and I think now that he has, and hopefully he's finding that joy, that love he's able to give and receive, like I was never able to give him, it allows me the space to forgive myself. It's kind of like, okay, he's happy, so I can. And this is what's been amazing about this whole journey, is that now, because I feel like that, I am really able to reflect
And
look back on it.
You've probably learned so much about yourself.
100%, and just in relationships as well. Like I feel like in relationships, it's definitely more about the woman's emotional roller coasters, and the male maybe being that supportive branch. And I did feel like that. It's like, it's all about me. Only my emotions are valid. When I look back, I was like, I didn't acknowledge his feelings once. Didn't even ever ask, because you just assume that I did.
That's his role, right?
Yeah, like.
No, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think most men feel that way.
Yeah, and
I'll
it's
be
so important.
really honest.
What the?
We feel like most men feel that our feelings are not acknowledged, or
Because it's seen as weakness, or like it could change everything, because a man being vulnerable means that we can't protect and provide for you.
that's why we go to what your dad was doing.
We show
This is what I do.
money, roof over your head, food.
Leave me alone.
It's true. I feel like now, if I was to have a relationship, or whenever I advise my friends, I think it's so important to acknowledge your partner's
You'll be
feelings.
surprised
That's
how much we appreciate it.
Man,
Yeah.
Cisco's so right. You would be so surprised. Like,
it's got nothing to do with me being a gay man.
no, it doesn't.
When a woman when a woman makes a man feel like they are 50-50 in this emotional exchange,
Or just seen.
it does so much to a man, because this is my own statistic, this is not real, but I would say a strong 8-9 times out of 10 that man didn't get that from his home, especially if they're a man of color. And so to finally, that queen, that princess, the woman that, you know, this investment that this man wants to do, you know, happily ever after, to be seen as eye level emotionally, it just opens up something that men find it really difficult to articulate.
Wow. And something's just come up for me as you were speaking about that, and we spoke about it. It's going to get a bit deep. It doesn't.
We like it deep.
But this
Oh,
is...
come on, guys. You're always lowering the tone. I told you, Lils. I told you.
We're not talking about double penetration. Go on.
Go on. What's come up for you, darling? Keep going. Sorry.
Talking about how valid how if it was more of a 50-50 choice. Prime example, during our relationship, I actually fell pregnant and we had an abortion. And now reflecting on this process, it was all about me. And I know it is our choice.
Your body. Yep, of course.
Our body. I hold so much guilt around this, because I feel like that must have been really, really... I didn't once ask him, what would you want to do? What in your head, what does that mean? What does this mean for you? He might have loved the little mini...
He supported you, didn't he?
Was so amazing.
Damn.
And I just think, again, what a bitch. I didn't think about him once. Like, I'm dancing, it was just a right off straight away. Then the whole post, like, it was all about me. I didn't ask him once. And I just think that must have been really, really traumatic.
We've spoken about this subject in the previous episode, and again, viewers, listeners, if you disagree, sound off in the comments below. I will never make a decision for a woman, but it will be appreciated if my opinion is valid, because I am 50% of what created that. So it's automatic for me to understand that you are the priority. But if the only reason why you're terminating the baby is because you don't have the capacity, money or whatever, to look after this baby, and I can, and you're okay with the process of pregnancy, then let me take the lead. And that's a very slim scenario.
Yeah.
But men, we are not welcome, not even in the perimeter of an abortion talk.
Yeah, and that's what I'm reflecting on. Like, although, yeah, ultimately it is our choice, and as long as they're supporting it, but it's like just acknowledging their feelings.
all
I
it
didn't
is.
ask once. Like, imagine having all of these feelings about this woman that you love, and it just is, you don't get a say.
Yeah.
Like, I did not give him a say.
Yeah, it's
And
very hard. And he still
It crossed my mind.
it doesn't cross a lot of women's minds.
But you know what? I think that this situation, the nuances and the peaks and valleys that you went through this one relationship, I think we all have that one relationship, and it's all different. But it's so profound. And because you're able to self-analyze, you're going to be in such an incredible position, or maybe you are in an incredible position to accept love now. Because I think when it comes to the don'ts, it can't get any more diverse than that. You know what I mean? And so I hope in your next relationship that if that inner saboteur still exists, know that the repercussions of it can be what you lost. You know what I mean? Because I knew every time I went for a heartbreak, my sole purpose was never to repeat that again.
Right.
In that capacity.
In that, yeah, because mistakes happen, but ultimately
You know what I mean?
learn from them.
How was your relationship? I don't know if you've been in a relationship after that, or you maybe seen someone, but how challenging was it to go from that to a new relationship, and how prepared are you, or were you?
It was a while, because that heartbreak was real for me. I did a lot of inner self-digging, travelled, and that's where I've found that reflection time. I'm a completely different individual, woman, partner.
Amazing.
Those that I have very far in between, because I'm not really like a dating type of person. Now I'm quite deep. It's like I just, you know, when you just like know whether it's somebody that you want to worth spending a bit of a conversation with or not.
Yeah.
However, I have no filter. I'm just like, this is who I want to be deep. I want to talk about I don't play any games. So straight away, it's like they're either going to accept what I'm saying, and if not, it's really clear to me that
They're not for you.
it's not. Whereas before, I'd be like the cold person, wouldn't reply like, oh, I just don't care.
You are you.
If I want a message in the morning, that I just will. Yeah, I am
Beautiful.
me, and I'm a giver in all of my other relationships, with friends, with family, community. Like, I am a natural giver. So why on earth restrain that in a romantic relationship?
Yeah.
That's who I am.
That's good.
And that the right person will match it and meet it. So I do believe that because of all of that, I would never want to make any other partner feel the way that I believe he felt. Because it wasn't really me. So I don't know why I ever did that.
No, it was because it was the little girl inside you.
Yeah.
That's and unfortunately, she steps up to protect you as well. And when she steps up to protect you, she steps up to protect you in a way of like defensive.
Yeah.
Do you know, she's got her gloves ready and she'll do everything self-saboteur. Do you know what I mean? So she's gonna.
I used to give either, which is my natural thing. I wouldn't.
But that's because you were trying to protect yourself from being hurt. So I'll hurt you before you hurt me.
Wow, that was the game. That was
Do you know what I mean?
last.
You know.
You lost that round. But
Yeah.
in the fight.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
No, it's true. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
all the failures that I experienced in love, like I had to give myself grace, because I was like, A, I wasn't ready at the time.
Yeah.
B, how would I have known? Because look where I came from when it came to like how I received love and my family unit. I was literally improvising, and also it's like I'm not a person to make that mistake again. So I'm doing all right. You know, so I hope that you give yourself the grace that to not take the residue guilt that you think he is experiencing or he should be experiencing.
I'm so glad you said that, sis.
'Cause that's
Because that's something that I feel that you.
Taught me this. You have to be 100% responsible for your portion of it,
Wow.
not his as well.
Yes.
So let go of that. Because one thing I'm hearing you speak about is like you were able to kind of feel better about things knowing that he was happy. And I think that's beautiful. I feel the same way about the mother of my children. But her happiness doesn't dictate and define me and mine. You understand? So no disrespect to her. Whether she's happy or not, I choose happiness. Do you understand?
Yeah. You're so right, because I've beaten myself up a lot about that process, and I love that I'm able to be open about it now. I feel like it's truly healing. I also wasn't always that bad. Like, I have to acknowledge that there was times where I was like,
No, you're just telling us about a situation
No, so that's
that
why
was
that
that was a catalyst.
comment
Yeah.
has made me,
And the
it's good to
situation doesn't
remember
define
that,
who
yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't define who you are. We know that's not who you are, but it's beautiful of you to acknowledge that that is inside you, because it's inside of all of us. That sabotaging child is inside every last one of us. No one's exempt from that. Nobody. So when you're telling your story, we're all thinking about our own stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like all of us are sat here.
Do you self-sabotage in your relationships then?
I mean, probably, but not that I've acknowledged yet.
Baby steps to Dory. He's
definitely
acknowledging
have.
it, which is great.
You
Which
are
is great.
affectionate though, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
I'm super affectionate.
He is. He's affectionate even with us lot.
I'm very
A bit
affectionate.
over-affectionate.
Like, I'm very affectionate. Oh, sorry.
See? All right,
Very
stop.
affectionate to others. I just don't open up about me.
Yeah,
That's my.
Okay.
but it feels.
Does that
like
make sense? Did you get that?
Started that journey. Not with me. Not with me, because I have a standard that I hold to myself, that I'm like, the reciprocation doesn't have to be identical, but it has to be similar, because I'm gonna come correct. And so in a saboteur, how can someone with the person that I was to who I am, with the career that I have, who's got space for that? I don't have space for him or it, because I've tapped into my self-worth, and I don't know another like this. So I'm going to fucking run with that. And there are weakness points. I maybe act up, but I know that I can pick up the phone or self-reflect. And if not, bitch, I'm getting a therapist. Do you know what I mean? But also,
Love that.
you know what it is, Lee? I've always been around people that have sabotaged so much in their life, whether it's personally, when it comes to their career. And I'm just like, I can't. I've been the front seat of all of this shit. I can't imitate that. Or I can't do something similar. I know better.
I know better. I like that.
When you know better, you do better.
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Or you try to, at least, you know?
Well, yeah. I definitely did sabotage my relationship. Definitely. I contributed to a lot of sabotage in that. But like yourself, kind of unconsciously, subconsciously conscious. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was aware, but I also didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Not quite aware enough.
Yeah, it was like, I didn't even know who I was really. Like, I'd been with the mother of my kids since we were like, 18, 19. And we're 43 now. We've only now, like 3 years ago, not been together properly, but we still live together and still raise our children and have a family dynamic, which is great. But I know for a fact, being in that relationship with her taught me a lot about me. Do you know what I mean? Like, knowing her allowed me to know who the fuck I was. But at the time, I thought all I was with her. That's all I thought a relationship or all anything could be. So I sabotaged that by like doing things that wouldn't contribute to our relationship in a good way, or trying to find myself with flirtation or even dabbling on the line of certain what we would call and classify as cheating. But I know for a fact that I sabotaged those things not knowing who the fuck I was. I know that for a fact. Do you know what I mean? I was actually looking for affection outside of my relationship. I was looking for validation.
What is that?
Because I was trying, because I didn't know where that came from. And again, we spoke about this in another episode, but I've never viewed relationships in the way that society said relationships should be.
Yeah, it's not sacrificial to you.
Yeah, like I'm like, I don't want to be in a relationship where I sacrifice myself or they sacrifice themselves. And that's what I found we were doing in our relationship. So with that, I was looking for myself outside of myself.
But once you find yourself, then you're more equipped for a relationship, because you will always come first.
Yes, I always
Yeah.
come first. And these guys will tell you this.
Yeah.
My slogans is me first, not me only. Selfish for selfless reasons.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's great,
I
right?
love it.
Yeah.
It's great. And always give from your outpour of the cup, never from the inside of your cup, because the inside of your cup is reserved for you and you only.
It's only give from the outpour.
Yeah.
Says overflow, the outpour. Yeah, there's enough. So let the overflow go.
Yeah.
Never give from what's inside your cup.
Yeah.
And that's what changed my relationship with her and everybody in my life. I stopped because I was starting to resent people, even her.
You were projecting your unhappiness and
I
unsatisfaction.
was like, well, why is no one willing to love in the way that I love? It's like, oh shit, they don't love like me. And it doesn't mean that they don't love me, but they don't love the way I love. Their love language is different to mine. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Selfish for selfless reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Me
worry,
first.
write these
Yeah. Me first,
got
not
you,
me
Lily.
only. We got you. But you should congratulate yourself, man.
Yeah.
You've done amazing.
I've known you sporadically, and very surface level, but the energy that you are now, the woman you are then, it's so different, which means that growth is present and you are doing the work. What would you say to a woman that is doing what Lee's inner saboteur was doing?
Stop.
Simple as.
I love it.
S-T-O-P.
You know what?
Stop.
Sometimes
Let him open the
sometimes
door.
It just needs to be as simple as
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, accept her, innit, man? Like, accept her.
Speak.
Yeah.
Communicate
Mm.
to your partner. If you were like me and were aware that you were doing it, tell them. I don't know. I wish that I did that. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm aware I'm being an absolute bitch to you. I'm aware that I'm being unselfish. I'm not grateful at all. I don't know why, but I don't know. I don't know how that sentence would look like. But communicate if you're aware that you're aware.
Wow.
So call yourself out almost in the
yourself
conversation
out.
so you can have an open conversation.
Yeah, and then stop.
Yeah. And easy as that.
Well, I think it really is if you bring it to the surface, it's dug in and you're just, all right, it's getting bigger and bigger. If I feel like maybe if I spoke to him about it, he'd be like, oh, thank God. Like, I know, like, why? Like, maybe then it could have led us down a different path. Maybe I got therapy then about the way that I was acting. Maybe it was couples therapy. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I was just going round in my own head. I kind of liked the toxic relationship. I
Wow.
really used to like that we would row, we'd have this like...
And then make up.
And then we'd make up and it'd be all happy again. Like, I honestly was so
Toxic.
stuck in that rotation, 100%.
Wow. Like a
Yeah.
hamster wheel, darling.
That's exactly where I was. Yeah. But I used to love it. But how, like, fucked up is that, honestly?
Could you see yourself in that situation now?
Definitely not.
Good.
100%.
Good.
I'm a
'Cause-
completely different person. There is...
I feel that.
and I
No
believe
way.
you.
Yeah, I do believe you.
Yeah.
I do.
Lee, thank you so much, because that's it's never easy going back, especially when a situation like this you're responsible for a lot of it, if not most of it. I think it takes a certain type of person and a woman to really be able to acknowledge and to share, because the whole point of this is to understand the language that women speak and that men speak, so that we can coexist together. Because I think a lot of the problems in any type of relationship is communication. We just don't speak each other's languages. But if we don't have the conversations, then we'll never have the vernacular.
That's so... Like, any problem that we
articulate
all
it, you know?
have all comes back.
It's communication.
Just communicate.
Yeah.
That was my answer, yeah.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure. Yeah.
Like I've learned so
Yeah,
much.
all of you.
That was really nice.
Yeah, it was.
Really
Make
pleasure
this
having
part
you.
of your story.
His heart's open. He just tries to shut it down.
No.
So my progressing question is to my inner saboteur
Mm.
out there. What does he or she look like? And what do you do to challenge it? Because we all deal with it differently. I have no space for mine. Lee has taken nearly a decade to be like, I'm not doing that. Dwayne found it from within. And Dory, aka Kane, is starting to approach and less swimming. How do you and your inner saboteur speak to each other? I would love to know your thoughts and comments on that, because everyone's different. And who knows, the way you answer might be a next episode. Or you could be a guest on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, for listening, for watching, and you know how it ends. Please, always keep it real without
Out the spiel.
Na.
Love.